What is up, you guys? Today we're going to be talking about 5 tips that are going to help you progress when you're playing solo ranked Splitgate. One thing that's important to remember when you're playing Splitgate ranked is that a lot of people are fresh to the game, including myself, but from the limited time I've had the opportunity to play this game, these are some of the things that I've learned. Starting off with number 1, and number 1 is controlling power weapons, but really it's more so realizing that your teammates are probably bots. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. What I mean by that is you are going to be the one that has to make the plays most of the time. Assume that your teammates never are going to go for power weapons. Assume that you are the one that has to always play objective. Be an overall team player. Don't just go for the highest KD possible. Go for power weapons to control map, but also make sure you're playing objective, because a lot of the time in Splitgate, when you're playing ranked, I would say 70% or more of my games have been objective based. Either if it's, I haven't gotten oddball yet, but it's been mostly domination and mostly King of the Hill with a couple TDM games sprinkled in. This stadium game is an example of immediately going for a power weapon to secure map control. On to number 2. Number 2 is playing off your teammates' positioning. And what I mean by that is understanding that your teammates are going to do their own thing. Often when you're playing solo ranked, you're not going to be all working together. So you need to pay attention to where their locations are, where they're potentially dying at, or where they're potentially fighting at, and you need to make sure that you're playing off of that. And when you see a teammate that's died, you need to realize that going into that area doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be immediately fighting somebody, because in Splitgate, it's a little different from other arena shooters where people could be portaling away very quickly. They could be portaling in between multiple locations. So just be cautious when you go into those sorts of areas and realize that you likely will be at least seen, if not in an engagement or in a fight, when you go into an area where your teammate has died. So you can always obviously go for a cleanup kill, but likely if you're playing against good players in Splitgate, they're going to be already portaled away from that location. So my best advice would be to sort of anticipate things like you're playing chess. Don't assume that just because your teammate died in one location that there will be enemies there guaranteed. It just depends on the type of players you're playing against and their ability to move around the map. Number 3 is using sound to your advantage. What I mean by that is, since you will not be talking with your teammates likely when you're playing solo ranked, and because you have no radar, you're going to need to pay special attention to hearing footsteps. Tried and true across a lot of video games. Make sure you can hear enemy footsteps. Hugely important when there's a no radar game that you're playing, and especially when you can't talk with your teammates. 2, you need to make sure that you're listening for the sound of portals. You can't tell the difference between a teammate's portal, your own portal, or an enemy portal, but just be aware, obviously when you don't see your teammates in sight, but you hear portals that you haven't spawned yourself, you could safely assume that those are enemy portals, and you need to be aware that there are portals around you. People might be looking at you in that area. Okay, on to number 4. And I've already mentioned this video, but you need to be playing objective and not worrying so much about KD. Obviously, having a high KD and winning the game would be great, but that's not always realistic. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice your KD to win a game for your team. That means sometimes you're going to have to sit on King of the Hill. Sometimes you're going to have to sit on the objective on domination. If there is oddball in ranked, which I'm still not sure if that's a thing, if there is, then sometimes you're going to have to touch the oddball, okay? You need to recognize sometimes when you have teammates that are even better at slaying than yourself and play objective. Because, again, it doesn't matter if you lose and you have a super high KD, you're ultimately still going to lose ELO. The goal is to gain ELO, and the only way that's going to happen is if you win the game. And lastly, at number 5, make sure to have fun. This is going to be a combination of 2 different tips. But obviously, if you're not having fun with the game, you're not having fun playing ranked, you probably shouldn't be playing it. Make sure that you're never getting too tilted when you're playing ranked. But 2 of the other things were making sure to be mobile and not camp. I hear from some people that they don't like Splitgate because they feel like people just portal camp. But I firmly believe that if you are really good at portaling yourself, that is much better than just sitting behind a portal and holding an angle the entire time, by far. So that's one tip. And then the other one is sometimes you're gonna have to trust your teammates' portals. So sometimes at the beginning of the game, when you're trying to get a portal up, your teammates are gonna take all of your space for a portal, and so you're gonna have to just live with that. There's nothing you can do about it. Ultimately, it's better to portal with your teammate than to not portal at all, because you're trying to get from point A to point B as fast as you can. So hopefully you enjoyed these tips, and then they were a little unique from some of the other tips you might have already heard. Make sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.